right. Now, Pat T will lead us into our principal workshop, principal inventory workshop, and I'll hand it over to you, Pat.
Thank you, Jared. We got a recording going. We're all good?
Sir.
All right, buddy. I'm still letting people in, so if you guys see people coming in, if you guys could take over the letting people in thing, that'd be awesome. Jared and Megan and Leanne and Tyler, I owe you guys a special thanks. Youngster and I sat down and looked over these stuff back and forth for probably about the last 6 months, literally. And Jared and Megan, Leanne and I have been talking about this. And so this is an attempt to share a methodology of how we at the BBA do principal inventory work. And it's a little bit of a different feel tonight in that we're not doing breakout rooms. We're going to have questions from the general floor, but we're trying to just get some teaching across tonight. And we're going to try to keep it simple. You know, it's interesting. Over the years of sponsoring people sort of get scared of doing principal inventory, like, oh my gosh, that's advanced BBA stuff. I'm not ready for it. And it's not really about that. You know, Bill and Bob and those guys, when they wrote the big book, it was never designed to be something esoteric and educated and complex and really difficult. It was really supposed to be more of common sense. And so we're going to start out with a definition of what is a principle, okay? What is a principle? And again, I don't know if I introduced Pat Alcoholic, San Diego, and love having everybody on the Zoom call tonight. So the definition that was available to Bill Wilson in 1935, Dan Sherman, who wrote the big book Awakening, put this up on his Jaywalker website, and I thought it was awesome. And so I wanted to include this in a special shout out to Dan, because I know somewhere in the spirit, Dan is listening and clicking his heels together, because this is something that's near and dear to his heart. So BBA put this Dan put this definition together in 1935. The definition of a principle is this: a truth which is a foundation for other truths. It's a fundamental belief. It's the guiding principle. It's a guiding belief underneath our life, in either our total life or any part of our life. That's all a principle is. It's what drives our behavior. It's what gives context to us. So if I was to say to you, I'm going to say some words, and before I even get through with the first word, you're going to have an opinion about it. And then you're going to have an opinion about the next 3 words or 4 words that I say. First word, marriage. Second word, money. Third word, love. Fourth word, God. Fifth word, relationship. Every one of us on this call had a reaction to those terms. And the reaction that we had to those terms is driven by our principle around that word. We all have a principle about marriage. We all have a principle that's driving our behavior in relationship, about love, about money, about God. And it's an amazing thing. And, you know, as we go through this thing, and I'm going to give you about 10, 12 minutes of introduction, and then we're getting right into the principles. I want to sort of set the stage. The big book uses the word principle about 39 times throughout it, a couple times in the forward to the second edition, and everything else is in all the chapters. But there are a couple conclusions that I want to bring up. Number one, Bill said that all of our principles should be demonstratable in all of our affairs. Interesting. You know what the truth is? Our principles, good or bad, are demonstrated in all of our affairs. We don't have a choice. How we are wired, how we are driven, that's what's going to manifest itself in our lives. And and then the second one is this: spiritual principles will solve all of our problems. If our principles are housed inside of our God relationship, in our relationship with our higher power, that housing is going to create spiritual principles, and those spiritual principles are going to solve all of our problems. You know, when we think about this, Silkworth in The Doctor's Opinion and Carl Jung in There Is a Solution, they had some thoughts around principles, and I want to give them to you just quickly, okay? Silkworth said that, you know, unless you have an entire psychic change, you are hopeless. You are going to die, Bill. If you don't have a psychic change, you don't have a chance at life. And so he says basically that principles determine reality. They interpret events. They mandate how I react and expect other people's to be and do for me. It's how I handle circumstances. Principles control our thinking, our feelings, and our behavior. Here's what Dr. Young says about it on page 27. He calls this spiritual vital experience, he calls it a vital spiritual experience. And this vital spiritual experience is then translated into some things that happen inside of us. In the way that Carl Jung described it, he said, ideas, emotions, and attitudes, which were once the guiding forces of our lives, guiding forces, think of principles, guiding forces, principles, were then thrown out, and an entire new set of conceptions and motives began to dominate us. Motives, conceptions, domination by those things. Those are principles. Those are principles. And how are they fueled? By a vital spiritual experience. Now, the interesting thing about Jung and Silkworth, both of them said, here's their conclusion. Silkworth, I'm a doctor, board certified in 2 disciplines, and I do not have the power, synthetic knowledge to bring about the vital, moral, entire psychic change necessary for your life. I don't have the power. Carl Jung, board certified in psychiatry after the disciplines of Sigmund Freud. His conclusion with Roland Hazard, as he discovered he's an alcoholic, he said, my way of treatment as a psychiatrist, cognitive behavioral therapy, has never, never, never been successful with anybody as an alcoholic of your type. So where does that leave us with? We have to have new principles to live by, but the professionals are saying we don't have the power to change them. And the big book's saying that, listen, you've got to demonstrate these principles in all your affairs, and these spiritual principles are going to change your life. It seems like I'm at a hitting the wall kind of position, you know? And so where do we get these principles? I mean, where do they first start showing up in my life? You know, it's clear. I'm going to give you one more illustration. Silkworth and Rowan Hazard conclude they can't do it. And then on page 52 of the big book, it confirms it again. It says the bedevilments. And listen to what it says about these bedevilments that we have to have happen. On paragraph 1 of page 52, it says this. We have to have a complete liberation of our thinking. That sounds like principles to me. We have to be able to discard our old ideas. That sounds like principles to me. We have to be ready to throw away those things in our lives that are not working for those and be able to grab hold of things that will work. Do we have a complete readiness to have our point of view changed? And then they conclude in the paragraph 1 that says basically, or in paragraph 2, it says, is after they go through the 9 bedevilments, it says this, is not a solution to these bedevilments more important than newsreels of lunar flight? So the idea and what I'm trying to position here before we go into this inventory is this. I cannot, at a fundamental level, deep down inside my soul, change the principles that need to be changed. I don't have the power. The purpose of principle inventory in step 4 is to be able to surface what is blocking me off from God and then take those things that I find objectionable into my step 5, 6, and 7 experience. Because see, this is not a self-help program. This isn't about self-improvement. This isn't about self-knowledge. It is about accessing power of God to change me from the inside out. Let me give you an example. In the bedevilments, one of the bedevilments is I'm having trouble with my personal relationships. Let me give you a principle that's sort of floating around in that. My purpose, your purpose in life, all of you on the phone, all in Zoom land, is to help Pat. That's your purpose. That's going to be a hard one for all of you to buy into. If God changes Pat, here's a new principle that God's put inside of Pat's heart. My purpose in life is to be of maximum service to you. That's a fundamental driving principle in my life. Not what can I get from you, which was my old principle, but what God instilled inside of me is what can I do for you? Now, the question begs itself, where do these principles even come from? You know, where do they come from? How did we get them? Well, some of them were hardwired. They're just sort of born into us. And it's simple things like this. Can you all agree and give me a thumbs up or thumbs down? Little innocent babies ought to be loved and protected. I see most everybody has a thumb is going thumbs up. I agree. Here's another one. Love is good. Here's another one. Good things should happen to good people. Bad things should happen to bad people. That just seems to be the way I was wired. Okay? Now, there's another way that we get principles. They're pushed into us by people in authority in our lives very early. I'll give you one. You are no good. You are a piece of trash. You are discarded and disposable. Anybody have that principle growing up? How about this one? You're stupid. You'll never make it. You don't have what it takes. Anybody ever heard that growing up? How about no one can ever love you? Look at who you are. Right? These principles. Now, here's the irony, and we're going to get into this when we get into the actual principles in the samples. Some of these principles that have been put into us, we buy as if it's the truth. And it's not until we do this principle inventory that we find out that these principles that we bought into that impact the way we feel, the way we think, the way we behave, have been with us all our lives, and they're not even true. They're false. They're lies from the pit of hell. They were never meant for us to believe about a loving God who loves us and cherishes every one of us on this phone. Big Book tells us that our God is a God of infinite love and infinite power, and he wants to be our newfound friend. That doesn't sound like a descriptor that I'm supposed to be using about myself. And then the final one. Sometimes we manufacture principles in our lives as a result of what we experience. An example, people can't be trusted. I have to be perfect. Look out for number one. Every one of those principles are manufactured by me as I try to manage life on self-reliant behavior. People can't be trusted. They're going to hurt me. Stay a distance. Don't let them in. I have to be perfect because my experience in life is unless I do it perfectly, unless I get the applause, I'm not okay. How about this one? Look out for number one. Early on in life, I have some hard experiences that tell me no one else gives a rap about Pat. If I'm going to make it in life, I've got to take care of myself. And one of the hardest things that we face as alcoholics and addicts and codependents and everybody, fixers and controllers on this call is that we have this attitude that we have to rely on ourselves to take care of ourselves. No one else will. And the road across from reason to faith, that bridge into belief that God is everything, is a tough one to swallow. And I will submit to you, it's a gift from God when we could jump across. Okay? All right. So we've talked about these bedevilments. And then let's give you a couple examples within Bill's story. Bill's story in pages 1 through 8, you're going to find principles all over the big book. And one of the principles is this in Bill's story. And as we go through it, Bill's story in pages 1 through 8, you're going to hear a theme. I just got to try harder. I'm going to prove to the world I'm important. I could control everything. I could overcome anything. I could always bounce back. Spoiler alert. Any principle based on me playing God ultimately will not work. How did it fare out for Bill? Not so good. Second part of Bill's story, he has a vital spiritual experience. He has an entire psychic change. Man, it's too much. There's my buddy next to Jared. He has my entire psychic change. And we go into this thing in pages 9 through 16. And here's Bill's new principle that's been given to him as a result of listening to Ebby and his spiritual experience. Here's the first principle. God is my new found friend. That changes everything, folks. Here's another principle that Bill comes up with. Actually, it's inserted into his being out of love. I must turn in all things to the Father of light who presides over us all. So in step 11, he says, the only thing I pray for these days is the knowledge of God's will and the power to carry it out. Maximum service to God and my fellows, that's my code. I love serving others. That's what Bill says. Bill goes on to say that vital, I have to be involved. It is imperative that I work with others. I have to have self-sacrifice. I have to have hard, rigorous work. I've got to have vigorous work and activity, self-sacrifice for others. I have to be constantly about the task of enlarging and perfecting my spiritual life. How do we do that? By spending time with our newfound friend and then demonstrating and practicing these principles. Okay. Enough of the background. Couple thoughts on the actual columns where we could find your principles. In column 3, under your self-esteem, under your pride, ambition, security, personal, sex relations, and pocketbook, underneath everything that you write down that's being disturbed is being driven by a principle. Every single one of those, there's a principle. Now, I'm not telling you to go crazy and write 300 principles. That's not my point. My point is keep it simple. But there's going to be 2 or 3 principles in your life that are killing you, that are corrupting, that are decimating your life. And those are the principles that keep coming up that tell you that you are no good. You're never going to make it. You're not going to be okay. God can't be trusted. All this kind of stuff. You're going to have some principles out there that are literally trying to separate you from the God who loves you. And those principles have to be dealt with. But in my self-esteem, I'm going to see what drives why I believe I'm not good enough. I've been told all my life I was a piece of crap. I'm unlovable. How can I be good enough if I'm unlovable, right? And then as an example, in pocketbook, one of the basic things is, if I don't have money, people won't want to be around me. If I don't have money, people won't want to be around me. Pride. What you think about me is more important than what I think about me. What you think about me is who I am. That could be a principle that I operate from. Those are just a couple of examples, but the bottom line is this. In the third column, my script that I write in that third column is being driven by my ideas, conceptions, motives, and beliefs, my principles. And another place we get our principles is in the fears that show up in the next to the third column and in the fourth column. The fears, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, and I don't want to turn this into anything complex. The fears are simply the things that are generated deep down inside myself because I'm self-reliant and I cannot make myself okay long enough, deep enough, far enough. And so I have to create delusions. And the delusions are designed to protect my fears. And those delusions don't work. And I know they don't work, but those fears are being manufactured. So those fears are another place that I can find my principles. So when we do the inventory, the bottom line is this. We don't do it for self-help. We don't do it for self-knowledge. We do it to be unblocked so that we could be thinking through the decisions in step 5 and 6. What about this principle inventory do I find objectionable? What is it in that column 1 or that column 2 or those column 3 or column 4 items that I write down that I find objectionable? Where do I see that I am powerless to change this principle of my own power? I can't do it. Where am I still clinging to this principle? I want to believe I have to be perfect to be okay. So I cling to the notion that next time I'll be okay. I'll be perfect. I'll figure it out. I'll do it right. I'll be okay. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I cling to the old idea that's not working. Like page 52, I'm not ready to give it up because of the old idea. Why? Because Pat's still playing God, and that's what's the problem. God plays God much better than Pat playing God. That's the truth. So we look at these from the perspective of objectionableness, powerlessness, clinging. Where do I need God's help? God, please remove this principle. I can't stand it anymore in my life. This is a lie from the pit of hell. I am lovable. I am loved. It's a lie from the pit of the hell that I'm stupid and I can't learn. It's a lie from the pit of hell that I have to be whatever you want me to be for me to be okay, to be loved. That's crap. Lie from the pit of hell. If I don't have money, I'm not okay. If I'm not financially secure, I won't be all right. Lie from the pit of hell. Now let's look at these the worksheets, the column principle or the resentment inventory worksheets. And on the resentment inventory worksheets, I'm going to ask you I'm going to give you some considerations in column 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then we're going to jump in. Here they are. In your column 1, as you're writing it, where did you get the idea? Who gave you this principle? Where did it come from? Is it even true? What happened in my life that gave rise to this principle? Column 2. Why does this principle upset me so much? Where is it not working in my life? And when we write down a target for column 2, it ought to answer both of those questions. Column 3. Why does this principle and how does this principle affect each area of myself? My self-esteem, my pride, my ambition, my security, and on, all through the 7 areas of self. Pocketbook, as you're looking through that, what does it cost me to have this principle? What does it cost me? How tortured do I have to live keeping this old voice in my head that I knew from some tragic events in my life, some abuse in my life, some history in my life that impacted me profoundly, that is still controlling my present, and it's 20 and 30 and 40 years old. What is it costing me? And then I'm going to give you a prayer in column 4, and this is being recorded, so don't worry about writing it down. But when I'm doing principal inventory for myself, here's the prayer that I'm asking God to do with me. God, help me see this principle as my attempt to cope with life without your power, love, protection, and guidance. God, it didn't go far enough. I'm in the dark. Bring me to the light, dear God. Help me accept your love and be loving to myself and others. Amen. That shifts me when I'm doing my principal inventory, that prayer. I don't know how to explain it, but I rely on God as I go into this 4th column. And then the 4th column, all I'm asking is this: how did the principle in column 1 produce, encourage, or support self-seeking behavior, selfish attitudes, dishonesty, and delusion? And how did it end up harming people around me? So I know that was a bunch. That was a good drink out of the fire hose as an introduction, but I wanted to make sure we got to that. And then I'm going to give you the 3 considerations, and then we're going to actually do our 4 examples. Here they are. Here's the 3 considerations from the 4 columns. You ready? The principle that I wrote down in column 1 is there, whether I like it or not. It's showing up. And I got to take it to God. Consideration number 2. It controls my thoughts, feelings, and attitudes, my people around me, myself, and God, and my attitude about God. Consideration number 3. And this is a scary one. Without the power of God, my higher power, my God relationship, lack of power, that's my dilemma. I had to find a power by which I could live, obviously. Unless I could access that power, this principle that I wrote down in column 1 is just my damage control to manage fear, to try to make the principle either true if it's a positive principle that I can't live up to, or false if it's a negative principle that I'm trying to run away from. Does that make sense? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Is that helpful? All right, here we go. So now with that in mind, we got plenty of time plenty of time to do our, if I can get my thing to work here. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to do the first sample principle. And what I want to do, everybody got it? Everybody can see it? Good deal. Now, before we jump into this, if anybody has a question or feels lost or feels like, hey, I want some clarification, jump in. And before I do this real quick, Youngster or Jared, do you guys have any overall comments before we jump into these samples? Youngster, you first. I'm just going to call on you. I think she's being shy.
There's some questions in the chat.
Pat, I think you're doing a great job. I love everything that you've said. You know that these, for me, these principles, the principles are belief systems that become a guiding force in my life. A belief that becomes a guiding principle in my life that blocks me from greater joy, greater peace, and a greater relationship with God. That is just another way that I say it, that Pat said it. You know what I mean? Yep. And I see them in all those places that Pat said. And you know what? This will change your life. Writing on principles will change your life. And you will find them, like Pat said, in the inventory. And Pat, you just did an awesome job. Thank you.
Thanks, Youngster. I love you. Jared?
Love you.
Any quick comments on that?
Oh, you're doing a great job too. I mean, I'd say the same thing. I've got a lot of freedom from doing certain principle inventories before, because I keep doing the same thing over and over and over. Just the faces change, just the names change, and it can't be them, right? I thought it was them for so long, but now I get to look at the principle of how like I'm showing up in the world, how this stuff that I can't get to. And I had to look at the fact that I've been programmed, like you talked about, really since I was born. I was getting this programming, and I was fed these ideas and these beliefs, none of which were my own. I didn't get to choose my name. I didn't get to choose my sex. I didn't choose any belief system that I grew up living my life on. It was all fed to me from parents, from peers, from television, these ideals of what people are telling me this, whatever it is supposed to look like. And based on my own experiences, beliefs, thoughts, and opinions, I formed what I thought this principle was supposed to look like, and I went with that. And here's the shocker. Maybe everything I thought I knew was right was really wrong the whole time. Yeah, that's something that I really get to look at, and you don't get to see this stuff until you start looking at these principles. When you're doing inventory on not a person, on not an institution. When you look at, why do I keep doing this? Why does the same message keep playing again and again in my head? Why is it that I get angry when somebody's criticizing me? Why do I think more of other people than I do of myself? These are all ingrained beliefs inside of me, and I can't get to them. They're in the programming. They're in the lines of code that I can't get to. This is why we do the inventory, so I can see, why do I keep doing this stuff that I can't seem to change? Let's hit those examples.
Awesome stuff, Jared. Thank you, buddy. So good. And I can't see the chat room real easily. Megan, are there some questions that you think that we ought to address real quick before we get into the samples?
Let me check. And just no, I think that other people are answering them for them in regards to the considerations, and a copy of the considerations you said.
Okay.
I'm going to ask, what is a positive principle?
Oh, yeah. We're going to actually, at the very end, I'm going to give you one. I think it'll be really fun for everybody to hear it. Okay. Let's do these samples, okay? I'm going to read through these, and what I want you to do, the experience that we would like to present as an offering through this is just let this sort of roll over and through you, and just see if you could have some identification with it, okay? It doesn't, the idea behind these four was listening to a lot of years of a lot of inventory, my own, Tyla's, Jared's, Leanne's, a lot of us over the years have listened to a lot of principal inventory and done a lot of principal inventory. These are just 4 samples of things that come up that might have some applicability in your own life. And if it does, wonderful. If it doesn't, you're going to see at least how you can do a principal inventory. Okay? So let's just go through it and see what you think. And Megan, if you see people throwing up a hand or something like that, interrupt me, okay? You have full permission. So column 1 on the first principal inventory is God doesn't care about me. Exclamation point. Big time, God doesn't care about me. And the cause, if God cared about me, or if God was real, he wouldn't have let my parents, relatives, partners, authority figure abuse me. God ignores me and he won't help. God doesn't protect me. How do I summarize that in a target statement for column 2? I'm alone in the world and no one's there to help me. Can anybody identify with that? All right. Let's see how it affects our self-esteem. Column 3. If I am alone in the world and no one's there to help me, that's my target for column 2. Here's, when I think about that, here's what it makes me feel like in self-esteem. This is what I'm fighting against. This is what's being interfered with, hurt, threatened, injured, burned up, sore, all those words that describe why I'm upset. I'm worth caring for. I'm worth protecting. I am valuable. I want to believe that. But my fear is I'm powerless and I don't have control and I'm not ever going to be safe. What does my pride say? Remember, we're in the theater, we're in a drama of life, and we're sitting there going on stage, how do I want other people around me? How do I want them to view me? Others should protect me. Others should see me as powerful, not as a victim. And my fear is I'm never going to get out of the victim role and I can't protect myself. Ambition. How did I want this scene in the play to come off? And I'm going to try to move this up a little bit. Can everybody still see my screen? Okay. Ambition. How did I want this scene to come off in my play? Well, I want them to pay for what they did to me. Remember, there was some abuse. I want to believe that there's a God who loves and cares for me. I'd like that to be my truth too. I wish that was the truth. What's my fear? I'm worthless. I don't have any rights. I'm never going to heal, and I'm unlovable. Well, if I want them to pay for what they did to me, and I want to believe there's a God who loves or cares for me, what does that do for me deep down inside in my security? What do I need to be okay? I need to be strong and self-reliant to be okay. Why? Because I don't believe God's really out there to protect me. I've got to pull it off. I've got to be strong. I've got to be self-reliant to be okay. And what's my fear deep down inside? I can't pull it off. I'm weak, I'm powerless, and I am ultimately alone. Now, I could have a personal relationship with this God that I'm going to turn my will and my life over to. So I'm going to write on personal relations. Real men and women are able to believe in and have a relationship with God. I'm stuck. I can't get to the other side. I see everybody else having a relationship with God and I can't get there. I'm alone in the dark, in the wilderness. I can't get home. I'm stuck. I can't believe. And I really believe that was my truth. How about real men and real women? That's my sex relations. What do I think about a real man or a real woman? I wrote on both of them because it'd be probably the same thing. Real men and real women, they don't get abused. Real men and women, they don't need anyone to protect them. They basically protect themselves. They don't get themselves in those positions. I'm a victim. I'm weak. I'm powerless. Pocketbook. Man, how many years of therapy and treatment did I have to go through? No one should make treatment to heal so expensive or out of reach. I'm hopeless and I'm helpless. Unless I have money, I can't even get the treatment I need. Any questions on that, Megan, from the audience or people? All right, let's go and let's see what happens. Let's turn the page. Let's turn the page and go to the fourth column. All right, fourth column. So remember, the fourth column is me on my own power trying to manage away from this principle that's going on in column 1. And so here's what I say to myself. I guard and protect myself. I'm not vulnerable. I'm going to attack first. I'm going to use humor to control situations and others. I'm going to use sarcasm as my weapon of choice. Those are some behaviors I might use. Selfish attitude behind that behavior. I keep a closed mind. I'm not open to new ideas. Don't come knocking. I'm the most important person here. Do whatever I need necessary to keep you out. No one has my back except for me. What about dishonesty or delusion? I'm in the delusion that I don't need anyone. I'm in the delusion that God can't be trusted. I remember when I first started having that crack open. It's delusional that God cannot be trusted, Pat. Wow. Are you kidding me? And what's the deep-seated fear driving all of this principle inventory? I am afraid that if there is a God, he will never love me. I'm afraid that I can't be fixed. I'm broken. Wow. What kind of harms result out of this kind of an inventory? I hate me for not having the answers and being weak. I've not been open-minded to the possibility that God even exists or wants to have a relationship with me. Guys, this revolutionized my life. Because when I got to the truth here, what did I find objectionable about this inventory? The bottom line for me on this is that I find it objectionable that I think I'm broken and can't be fixed, that God won't love me, that God won't be there for me. I find it objectionable that God doesn't want to have a relationship with me. I find it objectionable that I want to live in isolation from all people. I'm so alone, I can't even stand it. I want God to remove that. And so I go in, and I could go into what I'm clinging to. I could go into what where I'm powerless. I can't change any of this on my own. It keeps on repeating itself over and over and over and over and over again for 43 years of my life. And here's the point. If I'm fifth stepping with somebody that's been through the BBA work, they're going to be asking me, what do you find objectionable here, Pat? What are you still clinging to? What's the payoff for believing that you're alone in this world and no one can be trusted? What's that payoff? Well, if I'm alone in the world and no one can be trusted, I could keep myself isolated. I don't have to answer to anybody. And there's a certain kind of sick peace about that. Am I clinging to that? Am I willing to go into the light?
Hey, Pat, there's a question.
Yeah.
So someone asks, how did you see the delusional thinking when you were still in the delusion?
Great question. When you sit down with your sponsor, you sit down with your step buddy, it's really an amazing thing that they could see things that you can't see. And sometimes when you're writing the inventory, God shows up, pops it open in your head for the first time. And how it shows up is this. Wow, I've never thought about that before. That's new. I can't believe, where did that idea come from? That's how it shows up.
And also, why is there no realization? Can you explain that?
The realization is when realization we write on when we're doing inventory with people. And this is a principle, so I'm not doing a realization on a principle because it's not a person. Because I didn't do this to person in column 1 because it's not a person, it's a principle. It's a principle. Good question. Great question. All right. Enough of that. We're gonna go through about 3 more, and then we're gonna open up for questions. And I'm hoping this is helpful. I really hope this is being open things up. All right. So the next one we're gonna do is, let me get my little list here. I'm unlovable. So here we go. Can everybody see my screen? Good deal. And again, this is a composite. This isn't Pat Inventory 101. That's not my point. This is a composite of lots and lots and lots and lots of people that have had this belief, this guiding belief, underlying everything that they're feeling about themselves, thinking about themselves, doing with their own lives. So the column 1 principle that I'm having problems with, I'm going to personalize it just so we have a conversation around this, is column 1, my principle that I'm having problems with is I am unlovable. Exclamation point. This is driving me crazy. What's the cause? Column 2. Too many people have rejected me and failed me. I am disposable, irrelevant, and defective. What's the target? All of these relationships give rise to the following statement: rejection experienced in failed relationships. Relationship number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They all end up, I'm unlovable. They reject me. I'm alone. Column 3. How does it affect me knowing that rejection experienced in failed relationships? How does that affect me? What do I want to believe? What's the script in column 3 I want to tell myself? Well, I want to tell myself I'm important, that I matter. I should be loved. I am loved. And the fear is, like a little boy whistling in the night, that what I just wrote down for my script isn't true. I am broken, I'm disposable, and I'm worthless. Why even try to be loved? It's not going to work out. How should other people view me? Other people should want me and value me. And what's my delusion? I'm unwanted and I'm invisible. I'm not sure how we got the mark here. That's sort of cool. How about ambition? What did I want to have happen when that principle shows up in my life that says I'm unlovable? I want to be the center of loving attention. I want people to pay attention to me. I'm irrelevant. How about security? What do I need deep down inside to be okay? Let me ask this. Anybody, raise your hand if you've ever felt this. I need to be loved by others to be okay. If I need to be loved by others to be okay, that's going to drive some pretty serious behavior patterns in my life. And my fear is I'm never going to be loved. And I'm going to die deep down in my soul. And remember, in principal inventory, we don't write on personal relations unless it's going to be God or money. So principal, we're not going to write on personal relations. Sex relations, what about real men and women? Real men and women are cared for, loved, and sacrificed for. And I find that I'm disgusting and broken. Pocketbook, what does it cost me? No one should have to spend so much money to get love. My soul is dying. I feel hopeless and I can't be fixed. Let's go on to column 4. And again, realization, it's a principal inventory, so we don't write it. Here it is on self-seeking. You ready? Here's my behavior management without power. This is what I try to do when I'm unlovable. I will be anything or do anything to be loved. I will adopt others' values, open opinions, beliefs. I will manipulate others to get affection and recognition. How about this? I'm going to be clingy and needy, and I'm not ever letting you go. Anybody ever been in that spot? I'd crack myself up, man. If I had a nickel for every time. What's my attitude about that? What's my attitude behind that kind of behavior? Well, my needs are more important than your need. I don't need boundaries. Don't exist for me. I'm going to bulldoze right through boundaries. I've got to get love. And what's my delusion or my dishonesty? I'm in the delusion that becoming whatever I need to be loved will not have consequences. Tyler and I talked about that a lot. Did I really believe that the way I was acting, the way I was behaving, the way I was thinking was not going to have consequences? I was in the delusion I could escape all of them. I also had a dishonesty. I don't tell the truth, and I may not even know the truth. Anybody come into the rooms not even knowing whether you knew true from false? Me too. And so what's the deep-seated fear that's afraid, the engine that's driving all of this, the monster deep down inside that I cannot touch, that I cannot get rid of, that I cannot intellectualize away? I'll never be loved. I'll always be alone. Can you see why we got to take these to 5, 6, and 7 and get rid of this stuff to let God free us? Holy cow. If you're not uncomfortable when we're reading this, yikes. I'm uncomfortable reading them. All right, let's do the next one. Now let's move on here just a second. Let's do money. Let's do money. I think money was the next one. Yeah, let's do money. Megan, how's everybody doing? We all right?
We're doing good so far. Yeah, they were asking about harms. Are there any harms for that?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of harms on. We can go back. Let's go back to it for a second. I'm sorry. Unlovable and the harms. Apologize. You know, the list is too long, but I harm people every time when I'm manipulating and running through boundaries and not telling the truth and doing whatever I need to do. I'm not giving them my authentic self. I'm not showing up. I've never accepted me just the way I am. There's harms against me too. There's a lot of harms to people, and I could go through a laundry list of the harms. Every time I show up not authentically and I lie and I try to take from you, I'm harming you. Okay, great question. Let's go on to, oh, sorry. Let's go on to, let's see if I can get it here. Oh, hold on a second. Oh, there we go. All right, money. Okay, here's one on money. We got one more after this, and then we got some time for questions, and I'm hoping that you guys are that this is helpful. Okay, money. Here's a principle on money. Column 1, I'll never be okay unless I have a lot of money. Column 2, what's the problem with that principle? Well, it takes money to be happy. It takes money to have security, friends, and successful relationship. And so what's my target? When I summarize all that column 2 stuff up, what do I conclude? Without money, I'm nothing. That's a pretty pathetic place to be, but I lived there for a long time, and a lot of the people I've worked with have lived there. And by the way, that principle could be there if you have a 7-digit income and a 10-digit net worth. I've worked with guys that have more money than God, and they still have that principle going on in their lives. See, it's not always based on truth or reality. It could be based on fantasy. Self-esteem, column 3. Without money, I am nothing. That target, how does that affect my self-esteem? Well, I want to believe I am what I have and earn. I am powerful and attractive. That's what I believe. I have to earn. I am what I have. I am what I earn. I'm powerful and attractive. Well, what's my fear? I'm a failure, or I will fail, and money won't fix it, and I'll be unwanted. So how should other people view me? Well, this is a contradiction. People should want me whether I have money or not. Wow. It doesn't have to be full logic. It's just the truth. People should see that I am powerful and successful. Well, my problem is I got a stage character going on. I have fear that I'm a fraud, that I'm unloved, and I'm weak. I can't pull it off. Somebody's always more successful. How about ambition? How do I want the scene to play out? I want people to help me be successful and rich. It's everybody's job in life to make sure I am successful and rich. That's a hard one to live. So what's my fear? I'm poor, I'm discarded, I'm unwanted. Now we're going to go on to security. I need more to be okay. I need more to be okay. That's amazing. Think about salary increases or salary changes. Did it change the fear inside if you were self-reliant? I was making more money than I knew what to do with in 1990, 91, 92, and none of it mattered. None of it mattered. I still needed more to be okay. I need to know I matter more than my money to be okay. Well, that's a contradiction, but that's still the truth. No wonder I'm so screwed up inside. And what's my fear? Money won't last. Money can't buy love. Money can't buy love. Can't buy it. Can't pull it off. Personal relations. I could have a relationship with money, folks. Trust me on that. I had a relationship with money. Money is trustworthy. Money makes me happy and secure. Really? Money doesn't work. That's my fear. How about real men and real women in their sex relations? Money buys happiness and gets whatever. Real men and women buy happiness and get whatever they want. Are you kidding me? How do you live up to that? And what does it produce in my view of life? My fear, I'm miserable. I am absolutely miserable and I'm broke. That's my fear. Pocketbook. Others should help me succeed and give me a break. It's your job to give me a break, don't you know? And what's my fear? I'm unsuccessful, I'm unwanted, I'm alone. Let's turn the page and see what we have in column 4. Again, on my own power, how do I try to manage? If I don't have money, I'm not worth anything. Well, I'm going to manipulate. I'm going to lie. I'm going to play favorites. I'm going to use people to get ahead. I'm going to take shortcuts. I'm going to take undeserved credit for accomplishments so I could succeed in the corporate world. I'm only going to hang with the rich and successful people. That could all be behavior. How about selfish attitude behind all of that behavior that I just read? It's being driven by this attitude. I'll sacrifice. Oh, listen to this, guys. How sick is this? I'm going to sacrifice anyone or anything to get to the next level. I look down on those with less. I look up to those with more. Everyone cheats to get ahead. It's not that big of a deal. Wow. And I wonder why I've lost myself in my selfish respect. Dishonest. I'm in the delusion that I can live behind. Listen to this. Tyler and I were talking about this the other day. And youngster, you were invaluable in putting together these 4 examples.
Thank you.
I love you.
Thank you. I love you. Thank you.
The dishonest and delusion that Tyler showed, this was incredible. I'm in the delusion that I can live behind a mask and a persona without suffering consequences. Oh my gosh. I'm in the delusion that I could control money rather than money controlling me. How many people here have had money control their lives? Either too much or too little. You have money in the bank, you're happy. You don't have money in the bank, you're unhappy. You have money in the bank, life is grand. You don't have money in the bank, life sucks. Wow. And what's the deep-seated fear underneath this principle? I have to admit this. Even with money, I'm still unhappy. Money's not the source, not the cure. I am nobody, and I will always be a nobody. How about pulling that thought around all your life for 40, 50, 60 years, 30 years, 20 years? If that won't destroy your peace and joy in life, I don't know what will. If that won't corrupt relationships, I don't know what will. Harms, a lot of people, again, I'm keeping it generic. Everyone I lied to, stepped over, put down, laughed off, to get over, to get ahead. Wow. What do I find objectionable? What am I still clinging to? What's the value of still clinging to money will buy me happiness? It's never worked. The delusion has never worked out. It never fully protected me. Only God can reach the place deep down inside that can remove this. All right, last one. And then we'll open up for questions.
Something real quick that I saw in that, because I've done that one. I've done that personal inventory also. That something that I discovered, everything I related to everything you just said in that too, Pat, because when I found out that I believed more in money than I did in God. And I love that. I was trying to trust money was going to make me happy, and God wasn't. I wasn't relying on God to meet all my needs. What was I doing? I was trying to rely on Jared, and self-reliance will fail me every single time. Even when I get what I want, even when I have the money, even when I have the stuff and the power and the prestige and everything, it's not enough. Why is it not enough? There's something wrong internally because I'm not trusting and relying that God will provide for me exactly what I need.
Jared, that rocks. That's incredible. Right on.
Well,
man.
you can't solve a spiritual problem with a material answer.
No, you can't, youngster.
Can't.
God, you guys, this is powerful. I don't know about you guys, but there's good stuff going on here tonight. I mean, we're gonna get through this last one, so we got some time for questions, and we'll stay on a little bit past 7:45, but we're getting through it, which is pretty cool. All right, so here's the resentment inventory on a principle called column 1. I'll never be fulfilled if I'm not in a relationship. I don't know about you, but I run into a lot of folks that are really, really, really lonely.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, you could have this resentment of this principle going on when you're in relationship,
That's
but
right.
you're not alive. You could be dead in a relationship and feel more alone than if you're alone and single.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So this could apply to everybody. I'll never be fulfilled if I'm not in a relationship, column 1. Column 2, why am I upset with this? They always leave me. It'll never work out for me. I can't stand to be alone. Loneliness consumes me. Target. Being alone means I will die. That's heavy. I mean, there's a lot to that. So I take this target and I take it to prayer and I say, God, please show me the truth in my column 3. God, what's my truth? If the target in column 2 is being alone means I'm going to die, I will die. What do I fight against in my self-esteem? What is it? What's the script that I want to believe? What's the script I'm telling myself? I tell myself I am desirable. I tell myself I have what he or she wants. And what's the fear whistling in the dark underneath that's coming at me like a bear, like a cougar, like a lion on the prowl? It's going to devour me. Here's the fear. I'm ugly. I'm pathetic. I'm undesirable. I'm alone. How do I want you? How do I want others to view me in my pride? How do I want others to see me? Others should stand in line to be with me. That was so good. Others should stand in line to be with me. Exclamation point. Others should see me as having it all together. Are you kidding me? I try to put on that fraud. Gosh, what's my fear? I'm a fraud. I'm a stage character. I'm going to be rejected. I'm a loser. As soon as they find out, I can't keep it up. I got to dump the relationship before they find out the truth. I got to pull back from the relationship. I can't tell people my vulnerability. I cannot let them know who I am, because I have another belief. I can't be fully known and still be loved. Ambition. What do I want out of the scene? I want to be loved. I want to be pursued. I want somebody to adore me. I just want to be wanted. God dang it. Show some affection. Show some pursuit. Show some adoration for me. And what's my fear? I'm invisible. You walk through the living room and I don't even exist. I'm discarded. You talk to everybody but me. You don't even care what I think. I'm worthless. I'm boring. You fall asleep as I'm sitting with you. And not because you're tired. Security. Deep down inside, what do I need to be okay? I need to be loved by someone to be okay. And what's my fear? Somehow, some way, I don't think love's real. It's not for me. I'm broken. I'm defective. I'm alone. Love doesn't really exist. I've never felt it, never experienced it. It's not possible. I'm going to go ahead and write on personal relations, because I can have a relationship here because it's about relationships. Real partners are fully known and fully accepted. Wouldn't that be great? That's my script I want to believe. Yeah. Megan? We're good? Okay. And then what's my fear? Real partners are fully known and fully accepted. Well, my fear is that's bunk. I'm not accepted and I'm not loved. What's my belief around sex relations? My deep-seated beliefs about how real men and women should be. Real men and women have power, control over others, and get what they want. I can make you love me. What's my fear? I'm undesirable. I have no control, and I'm unwanted. See, I'm trying to make you God. I'm trying to get you to be God in my life. I'm trying to worship you, and you are not giving me back the affection and adoration and love that I need. So the pocketbook, how about this as far as how it affects my finances? Others should see me that I have enough money to attract someone. If I'm broke, if I'm on welfare, if I'm living out of my car, how in the world would anybody ever want to be with me? I'm pathetic. I'm ignored. I'm alone. Let's go on and close off on this, and we'll open up for questions. Fourth column, under my power without God, how am I going to manage this thing called relationship that I need a relationship to be okay? Here it is. Self-seeking behavior. I put on the act to attract. Anybody ever do that? It's my first date. It's my first date face. It's my first year face. It's that honeymoon face. And what's the problem? I have to be a chameleon. I have to do and say whatever is needed to get them to like me and to get them. I have to overpower them. I have to intimidate them, perhaps. I have to fake like I'm listening to have them think that I'm interested. I'll never let go. That's a twisted up self-seeking one right there, guys. That's twisted up. There's a lot of conflicting behavior there. Pick your poison. Okay, behind that behavior, what's my attitude? Well, if I get my needs met first, then I'll be able to care about you. Come on. Just give me what I need, then I'll care about you. Come on. That's the rule here. They should know what I want and need without having to say it. Anybody ever get upset with their spouse or their partner because they weren't understood? They didn't do what you wanted, but you never bothered to tell them? They should know what I want and need without having to say it. I'm still guilty of that. My voice cracks thinking about it. Where's my dishonesty and delusion? I'm in the delusion that a relationship's going to fix me. How much power does your partner or spouse have, people? Do they have infinite power? Do they have infinite love? Last time I checked, unless they created the world and everything in it, they're not God, it's going to be a problem. I'm under the delusion that they are the problem. We learned that in step 3 and 4. My problem is of my own making. No, I believe I'm in the delusion it's your problem, that you're the problem. I'm also in the delusion that relationships are about getting, not giving. Wow. That's going to be a deal breaker. So what's the deep-seated fear that I'm trying to manage? If I'm alone too long, I'm going to die inside spiritually. I'm going to shrivel up and die. And people won't even know I disappeared. What's the harm? A lot of people, I trample on others to get my needs met. I suck the life out of other people. I suck the life out of other people. I'm a human tick. Mm-hmm. I'm a bloodthirsty, sucking tick in other people's lives. I had to answer for that one. And all of these, by the way, were multiple people, but there's not one of these principles I didn't identify with. Okay, people, that's 4 examples of inventory. I'm going to turn off the share screen so we all see each other. And then we got a little bit of time, not much, and I'm sorry about that. It's just limitations of time. Pop off, let it be said, go for it. What's up? General questions. Was this helpful?
I just want. Go ahead, Tyler.
Youngster.
I just wanted to say, Tyler, alcoholic addict, I just really want to acknowledge Pat and all the work that he put in to putting on such an incredible workshop. The way that he looked at what would hit each of us the most and the kind of areas and the deep, deep thought that he put into it. You know, this took a lot of work and preparation, and I really want to honor Pat and what he's done for us continually in San Diego. I love you, baby.
I love you, youngster. Thanks. Thank you. Pat,
yeah, that was awesome, Pat, really. I can relate to all of these on almost verbatim. But anyway, it was someone suggested to me recently that if I do harm to myself, which you did mention harm to yourself on one of these,
Yes,
then
you did.
then I should make amends to myself. Have you ever had experience with that?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
at the very end, what I'm going to do, guys, and please don't leave until I read the positive principle of a relationship with your higher power, with God. It's unbelievable. And this was something that God gave me years ago that absolutely revolutionized everything in my life, that made page 25 and page 51 of the big book come alive. Absolutely come alive. Blew me out of the water. So
Cool.
I'll share that, Pat. We'll go over that.
Thanks.
I
Thank you.
feel like absolutely every one of my resentments has one of these principles behind it, and so it just kind of like blew open the way that I'm looking at each one of those individual ones, and I'm in the third column now in my group, and so and I've been a little daunted by it, and then I did print these, so I've been looking at them for the last couple of days, but your explanation of it really made me feel like, okay, I can find the bottom of this, because the resentments are just individual, but if you could take it down to the principle, every single one of my resentments or my fears stems down to some belief I have about every single one of these 4 principles.
Yep. You'll hear Jared say this a lot in the workshop, but if you change if the principles in you are changed, if your beliefs are changed, everything shifts. And the amount of inventory that you have to write becomes less and less and less, because you're loving people now. You're not in war against people. In step 10, promise comes true. You cease fighting anything or anyone.
Thank you.
Great response.
I'll
Pat,
do that real quick.
Pat, Robert, alcoholic.
Go, Robert.
So,
Hey, Robert.
Hey, how are you?
Good,
So,
buddy.
so many of the beliefs that I grew up with that were set in stone was that pretty much many of my beliefs were in error.
Yes.
And I've been living in error for decades.
Yes.
So in looking at this column and looking at and looking at the principles, I've been living my life governed by these principles as fact, and God was nowhere to be found. Is that what?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Sue, before you share, I want to honor everybody's time frame. We said 7:45 Pacific Standard Time, and I want to read a positive inventory. I'm sorry, again, the format doesn't allow for a ton of sharing. Jared, if you're open to it, can we stay on for about another 15 minutes after I read this? What we'll do is I'll close off on the workshop, the last thing I had in mind I wanted to share with everybody. And then if you want to stay on for a few, because Jared's being such a kind soul, and Megan, I seriously, thank you guys. We'll stay on for a few minutes after if everybody wants to do that, okay? Is that all right? Okay, let me share this with you. Here's my column 1 on a positive side, okay? And just listen again, it's recorded. Just listen to this. God loves me, protects me, and guides my life. Column 2. There is no column 2 because I don't have any resistance to this. What's my column 3? How does it impact? How does this principle affect every area of myself? If God loves me and protects me and guides my life, how does that affect, when I take it to consideration, how does it affect my column 3, 7 areas of self? Listen to this. Self-esteem. I am loved. I am worthy. I am guided. I am protected. I am absolutely adored by God. Pride. God sees me and loves me exactly as I am, and he wants to be my best friend forever. Ambition. I want to do what God wants me to do. Security. I need God's love and presence to be okay, and I have it. Personal relations. God demonstrated love for me always. I responded to God's love, accepting it always. Sex relations. God made me for himself and that I would enjoy him forever. Pocketbook. This is an interesting one. I have infinite resources in God, and where I breathe and move and have my being, God is. Fourth column. Here's the realization. And I know I broke my own little rule, but here's my realization. God has always been with me, has always been eager to experience life with me. His love and his influence in my life and others has always been there. It's never not been there. How does that affect my behavior? God-seeking behavior. I get to demonstrate love. And the original 100 in Akron, or actually in Akron and Cleveland, they read out of the Bible, and I'm not trying to make a point about that pro or con, but if you have a Bible, turn over to 1 Corinthians 13 sometime, and it demonstrates what love looks like. God-seeking behavior is demonstrating love. What's my God-centered attitude? God can do all things through me. It is he who strengthens and loves me. And because of that, I generate God. This is not me doing it. This is God demonstrating Godness through my life. God demonstrates love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control through my life. And if I don't have a delusion, what's my honest and clear vision? The more and more I see God's way, the more and more I see it works. The more and more eager I am to test it and have a deeper, more profound experience with God. The truth is, I'm set free by God. And if I don't have fear, what's the opposite of fear? It's absolute love. How does that show up in this principle? Perfect love casts out all fear. There is no need to protect myself. The hole in my heart has been filled with God. All is right with my soul. And if I'm not harming people, here's how it shows up as nurturing and building up one another. I am able, because I'm not trying to take from you, I'm able to listen and respond to God's call in practical love to others. Amen. People on the Zoom call, I love you. It means the world to share this with you. It's vital in my recovery, and I hope it's helpful. And so we'll close
Yay,
off.
Pat. Woo!
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you. That was amazing.
So,
Thank you.
thank you, guys. Jared, would you close us off in a prayer? And then after the prayer, if you guys want to stay on and offer comments or questions, we'll stay on for a little bit.
Sure. What prayer do you think?
Whatever you feel, buddy. Rock and roll.
Let's do an old classic serenity prayer.
Yeah.
God,
God.
grant me the
Serenity.
accept the
Things
things
I cannot change.
courage.
Courage to change the things I can.
and
And the wisdom to know the difference.
I will not.
Amen.